Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that plunges into fascinating topics, peels back those layers of complexity, and hopefully delivers those, satisfying aha moments straight to you. Today, we're diving into something that honestly sounds like it's ripped from a spy thriller script, but it's increasingly becoming our very real, everyday reality. We're talking about the security of the devices connected to and even within our bodies. Now, let's rewind a bit. Think back to 2007. The U.S. vice president at the time, Dick Cheney, who had a pacemaker, made this really extraordinary demand of his doctors. He ordered them actually, to disable all the wireless signals going to and from his life-sustaining device. Why? Well, his chilling reason was he was afraid terrorists might hack his pacemaker, use it to deliver a lethal shock straight to his heart. I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it?
It really does.
But it makes you wonder, right? Was Cheney just being, overly cautious, paranoid even? Or was he actually onto something deeply concerning, something very real?
It's fascinating because Cheney's concern, which might have seemed extreme back then, wasn't just paranoia. It really tapped into a very concrete vulnerability, one that was proven quite dramatically just a few years later. So in 2011, 2012, there was this brilliant hacker from New Zealand, Barnaby Jack. He brought this threat vividly to life, and he wasn't just talking theory, he was demonstrating it live in front of audiences. Jack used what's called a high-gain antenna, basically a super-sensitive signal catcher, and he intercepted unencrypted electromagnetic signals coming from an insulin pump. And get this, the pump wasn't even on a person, it was on a mannequin, positioned a staggering 90 meters away.
90 meters? That's what, like the length of a football field?
Roughly, yeah. It's a huge distance for this kind of thing. And the outcome of his demonstration, well, it was nothing short of shocking. Jack successfully hacked that insulin pump. He could remotely adjust its insulin levels. And he didn't stop there. In another equally chilling demo, he showed he could also hack a pacemaker, make it deliver a series of deadly electric shocks. These weren't just, theoretical bugs in a lab. These were real-world live demonstrations. They exposed critical, life-threatening flaws in devices that millions rely on. It really shifted how we think about the security of our most intimate tech.
Wow. Okay, that absolutely puts Cheney's concern into a whole new light. It wasn't paranoia at all, but that makes you ask, okay, if we knew about these vulnerabilities, over a decade ago, you'd hope these issues are long gone, right? Resolved. Has that actually happened? Are we still seeing these kinds of vulnerabilities in devices today? Because that's a pretty massive problem if these are critical devices.
Yeah, unfortunately, you've really hit on a crucial point there. Despite those alarming demonstrations, the vulnerabilities have persisted. It's quite unsettling, actually. Fast forward to June 2020. That's a full 8 years after Barnaby Jack's reveals. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the DHS, they issued a pretty significant recall for a specific model of connected insulin pumps. And the reason? Those pumps were still transmitting sensitive patient information, things like glucose levels, dosing history without any encryption.
Still in 2020.
Which meant that anyone nearby, with even moderately sophisticated gear, could easily just pick up and access that deeply personal data. This wasn't theoretical. It was an ongoing real-world security gap in a life-critical device. And this isn't just about pacemakers and insulin pumps anymore, is it? That's the really key thing now.
Right. Because the conversation today, it isn't solely focused on medical implants, as vital as those are. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, and hits much closer to home for almost everyone listening. Just think about all the other wireless devices we're now routinely putting on our bodies, or sometimes even in them. The wireless earbuds you use on your commute, the smartwatch tracking your steps and heart rate, even those VR headsets that immerse you in other worlds, they're all part of this emerging landscape.
Exactly. And the future promises even deeper integration. People are talking about smart contact lenses that could display information right in your vision, or think about tiny digital pills you swallow, like any other medication, that then transmit sensor data about your internal health. All of these things are potentially at risk.
So it's expanding rapidly.
Massively. And this whole broad, rapidly expanding range of devices, from life-saving implants to, convenient consumer tech, they all share this fundamental universal need. They need data transmission that's not just reliable, but incredibly secure. It needs to operate on low power, obviously, to save battery, and ideally have a very short, very contained range. That's why researchers have started thinking about these not just as separate gadgets, but as parts of a single, highly personal network, a body area network. And taking a cue from the Internet of Things, where everyday objects are connected, this new deeply personal network is increasingly being called the Internet of Bodies, the IoB.
The Internet of Bodies, IoB.
Right. And the big challenge for all these IoB devices, doesn't matter if it's monitoring your heart or just playing music, is achieving that secure, contained data transmission safely and efficiently.
And that's precisely the huge problem we're diving into today. Because if these critical vulnerabilities are still out there and our reliance on these very intimate devices is only growing, well, then we desperately need a better way to protect our most sensitive personal info. So today we're exploring this incredibly innovative solution, one that literally turns your body into the network, creates a secure personal channel for your data. We'll unpack why our current wireless methods, the ones we use every day, just fail in this really intimate context. And then we'll reveal how this ingenious new tech works, kind of from the inside out. It offers a glimpse into a future where your personal data stays truly personal, contained.
Yeah, so to really grasp this new idea, we first need to dig into why our current, really widely used wireless technologies are just fundamentally not right for the Internet of Bodies.
Yeah.
A lot of IoB devices, those glucose monitors we mentioned, smartwatches, they primarily use established standards like Bluetooth to talk to each other. And, let's be fair, Bluetooth has its place. It's super convenient. It uses low power, which is vital for small wearables and implants. It's well understood, mature tech, pretty easy for developers to put into products.
Yeah, we all use it constantly.
Exactly. But here's the critical insight, the catch, if you will. Despite all those benefits, Bluetooth was never actually designed for the unique needs of IoB networks. Its core design philosophy, maybe even its most celebrated feature, is that ability for devices to easily find and connect over several meters. It was great when you're pairing headphones to your phone, right? Effortless.
Super easy.
But it becomes this massive liability when you're talking about devices operating on or inside your body. That easy connectivity over meters is precisely the feature that lets an attacker, like Barnaby Jack demonstrated, snoop on or attack your body-worn devices from a distance. You're basically broadcasting your most intimate data to anyone within, say, a 5 to 10 meter bubble around you, if they have the right gear.
Wow, okay. I never really thought of it that way. It's broadcasting.
It is. And there's another limitation to these traditional wireless technologies, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. They're engineered to travel efficiently through air, or maybe a vacuum. But the human body, it's dense, complex, very absorptive. It actually makes these technologies inherently inefficient. They waste a lot of energy trying to push signals through us.
So it's just a fundamental mismatch, like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, basically. The very thing that makes Bluetooth convenient, its range, makes it a security nightmare for our personal body networks. And, when we talk security, most people jump straight to encryption. But you're saying for IoB, there are these deeper, more fundamental concerns. It's not just about keeping data secret. It's about, what did you call them? Containment, integrity, and availability. Can you unpack those a bit?
Absolutely. And yeah, encryption is always a vital layer, especially when you're talking sensitive personal data like medical info, going over any channel. But it just doesn't address all the unique challenges that come with local attacks on IoB devices. We really need to think about three crucial pillars of security here, beyond just encryption, to truly protect these body networks. So the first is containment. Just imagine your most sensitive health stats. Real-time glucose levels, the precise rhythm of your heart, maybe the operational status of an insulin pump. You absolutely do not want a device connected intimately to your body just broadcasting that stuff. Even if it's encrypted, the fact that it's being transmitted outwards means it can be intercepted, recorded, maybe cracked later. Anyone nearby with the right kit could potentially eavesdrop on the very pulse of your health. That's a huge breach of privacy. Give people insights into your health without your consent, maybe without you even knowing, like having your private medical diary read out loud on public radio.
That's a really disturbing thought. Okay, so containment is number one. What's next?
The second pillar is integrity. This is all about the accuracy and trustworthiness of the data itself. And for IoB, the consequences if data integrity is compromised are incredibly severe, often life-threatening. Let's go back to the glucose monitor and insulin pump example. If an attacker somehow manages to mess with the data stream between your monitor and your pump, they could trick the pump, make it release too much insulin, or maybe too little.
Right, which could be catastrophic.
Exactly. Dire health impacts. Too little glucose, hypoglycemia, can cause immediate issues. Headaches, weakness, dizziness, confusion. In severe cases, unconsciousness, seizures, even brain damage. On the flip side, too much glucose hyperglycemia leads to serious long-term problems. Vision issues, nerve damage, kidney disease, heart attacks, strokes. The critical thing to understand here is that either situation ultimately can directly lead to death. This isn't just data theft or a privacy breach anymore. It's a direct threat to your physical well-being, your life. The integrity of that data is just paramount.
Okay, containment, integrity. And the third was availability.
Availability? Yes. This just means ensuring your device can always access the information it needs and function correctly, exactly when it's required, without any interruption. Think about the danger of signal jamming. An attacker doesn't even need to intercept or change your data to cause harm. They can just block the signal. Imagine a pacemaker that fails to kick in during a sudden, life-threatening arrhythmia because its signals are being jammed. Or an insulin pump that doesn't get vital data from its sensor, so it can't deliver medicine when you desperately need it. In those scenarios, the device's inability to communicate or respond could be fatal. Your health, maybe your survival, depends on that signal being available, uninterrupted.
So when you add all that up, the lack of containment, the risk of data being corrupted, the danger of vital functions being blocked. Yeah, it really sounds like we're caught between a rock and a hard place with the current wireless solutions for IOB. They offer convenience, sure, but it sounds like it's at a potentially devastating cost to our privacy, our health, maybe even our lives. And we are relying on these devices more and more inside and out. The current methods just aren't cutting it for this kind of personal, critical data. Hashtag tag 2. Why existing solutions, wireless and wired, fall short for your body.
Exactly right. Just to quickly recap, traditional wireless signals, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, they were fundamentally designed to travel through the air, like spreading out. That inherent broadcast nature means the signal can be picked up by anyone within range, which is fine for lots of things, but is precisely what makes them vulnerable to interception and interference, often from meters away. This broadcasting is just fundamentally at odds with the critical need for personal, contained data transmission that really defines IOB devices. We need something where the data doesn't leave your immediate personal bubble.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So if wireless is inherently leaky, let's say, for this sensitive data, the obvious next question, probably for a lot of listeners too, is why not just use wires? I mean, a physical wire creates a dedicated, closed channel that sounds inherently secure, right? Like a private phone line. It just feels intuitively much safer.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right to think that way. From a pure security and privacy angle, physical wires do offer some big theoretical pluses. A wire creates a direct physical path. Eavesdropping means you have to physically tap into that wire. And if that wire is securely on you, or even inside you, physically tapping it becomes incredibly hard, maybe impossible, without you knowing or without resorting to really invasive measures. So yeah, the security and privacy side of wires looks very attractive for IOB at first glance.
But there's a but coming, isn't there?
There's a big but. While the security is appealing, we immediately hit these critical, often life-threatening drawbacks when we think about physical wires for IOB devices, especially implanted ones. First, and maybe the most alarming, is the corrosion risk. Seriously, the human body isn't static. It's this dynamic, complex biochemical soup. If a wire, particularly an implanted one, isn't perfectly insulated, perfectly sealed, the body's own biochemical processes can actually corrode the metal in the wire.
Corrode it inside you.
Inside you. And this isn't just a device might stop working issue. It could lead to heavy metal poisoning, leaching toxic stuff directly into your system. That's a direct, extremely serious health threat. Think about long-term exposure to tiny bits of corroded metal inside you.
Yikes. Okay, that's terrifying. What else?
Then there's the massive inconvenience and danger, just from the practicalities of having wires inside your body. Imagine the complexity, the surgical intensity of needing to repair or replace a pacemaker that uses physical wires threaded through your veins. This wouldn't be a simple procedure. It'd need delicate, highly invasive rethreading of wires. Huge risks of infection, damage. Plus, it's painful, traumatic for the patient. The whole idea of having this complex web of wires crisscrossing under your skin, connecting various devices, it's not just visually unappealing, it's medically and practically a nightmare for long-term use, maintenance, comfort. Mass adoption would be impossible.
Okay, so yeah, that paints a clear picture. We're really stuck in a dilemma here. On one side, insecure wireless signals broadcasting our sensitive data. On the other, wired connections that seem secure but bring serious health risks and practical nightmares, especially inside the body. It feels like two bad options for a problem that's only getting bigger as we connect more things to ourselves. There just has to be a better way, doesn't there? A kind of third option that bridges this gap.
That is exactly the pivotal question that really sparked this whole area of research we're talking about today. What if the solution wasn't around the body, broadcasting signals out, or through it with risky wires? What if the solution was using the body itself? What if the very medium we're trying to connect devices on and in could become the secure, contained communication channel? Avoiding all those pitfalls. That's the ingenious idea here, and it truly redefines what a personal network can be. And this is exactly where the really groundbreaking research from Purdue University comes in. They've pioneered this truly novel way for devices to communicate, aiming to make them way more secure and efficient than our current low-power wireless signals. The core idea is quite ingenious, really. It effectively turns the human body into a living, wired communication channel. How? By capitalizing on our body's natural innate ability, something we rarely think about, to conduct tiny, completely harmless electrical signals.
Using the body itself as the wire.
Essentially, yes. The fancy scientific term they use is electroquasistatic human body communication, which is, yeah, a bit of a mouthful.
Definitely a mouthful.
So just for clarity, we can simply call it the body channel. The really important takeaway is that by using the body's own natural conductive properties, this tech manages to elegantly sidestep all the problems we just laid out. It avoids the insecurity of traditional wireless broadcasting and the dangerous, impractical nature of physical wires. It finds this secure middle ground, or maybe a secure inner ground.
So essentially, our own bodies literally become the wires. That avoids the broadcasting problem, and it sidesteps the health risks and the sheer hassle of physical wires. That sounds almost too simple, but incredibly clever. It's like finding this hidden secure pathway that was right under our skin all along, a kind of natural biological solution to a really high-tech problem.
That's precisely it. It's leveraging what nature already provides. And to understand why the body can act as such a good conductor, we just need to look at what we're made of. The average adult human is about 60% water by weight. We often forget that when thinking about electricity. But here's the key distinction. Pure water on its own is actually a terrible conductor.
Oh, right. I remember that from science class.
Exactly. But water that's filled with conductive particles, things like electrolytes, those essential minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, various salts that conducts electricity much, much better. And our bodies are absolutely swimming in a solution like that. It's called interstitial fluid. This watery solution is everywhere, just under your skin, surrounding all your cells, bathing them. And this fluid isn't just water. It's packed with proteins, salts, sugars, hormones, neurotransmitters, all sorts of stuff, essential for keeping us running. And because this interstitial fluid, loaded with all these conductive particles, is everywhere, it effectively creates this highly efficient conductive medium throughout the body. That widespread conductivity is the secret sauce. It's what makes the body channel idea work. It lets us establish an electrical circuit between devices practically anywhere on the body, head to toe.
Okay, so our bodies are natural conductors because of all that salty interstitial fluid. Got it. Now let's make this real. Bring it to life for a practical example. Let's picture someone with diabetes again. They use an insulin pump, maybe on their hip or abdomen, and a separate continuous glucose monitor, maybe also on the abdomen. And let's say they also wear a smartwatch. They want that watch, besides telling time, to securely show their current glucose levels and maybe the pump status all in real time. How would this body channel actually make that happen securely and efficiently?
Okay, great example, very relevant. So with this body channel method, each device involved, the monitor, the pump, the smartwatch, would be specially equipped. They'd each have two specific electrodes. First, a small electrode, often made of copper, that directly touches the user's skin. Gentle contact. Second, something called a floating ground electrode. Now, this second electrode is important. It does not touch the skin, and it's not connected to the actual earth ground like your wall socket. Think of it as the device's own internal electrical reference point, completely self-contained within the device itself.
Okay, so one touching the skin, one floating inside the device. Why the floating one?
That floating ground is crucial because it helps create a closed loop for these tiny electrical signals within your immediate personal space, without needing to broadcast them outwards or rely on a physical return wire. Now let's walk through the transmission. When the glucose monitor takes a reading, it first encodes that data, the glucose level, into a series of specific, very low voltage electrical values. To send these values, the monitor then applies a tiny voltage between its two electrodes, the skin one and the floating ground one. This applied voltage does something really subtle but profound. It creates a tiny, almost imperceptible change in the electrical potential of your entire body relative to the Earth's ground. Think of it like a very gentle, contained electrical ripple passing through you. Now, this change in your body's potential is just a fraction of the voltage difference the monitor applied between its own electrodes, but it's carefully designed to be just enough to carry that information.
So this tiny, localized change in the body's overall electrical potential? That's the signal carrying the data.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do the other devices, like the pump on the waist or the smartwatch on the wrist, how do they hear that super subtle signal and know what it means? Are they actively listening?
They are actively sensing it, yes.
Yeah.
Because both the pump and the smartwatch are physically on the body,
Mm-hmm.
they also detect this subtle change in potential across their own two electrodes, their skin contacting one and their floating ground one. They're essentially picking up on that overall shift in the body's electrical state that the monitor initiated. These receiving devices then convert those detected potential measurements back into meaningful data. Your glucose level, the pump status, whatever it was sent. It's like an internal, highly localized conversation happening electrically. And the really critical security feature here, this is what makes it a game changer. All of this happens without the actual signal ever really traveling beyond the confines of your skin. The electrical signals stay almost entirely contained within your body. Unlike Bluetooth, which radiates meters away and is easy to intercept, this data stays within your personal physical space, making it incredibly difficult for anyone outside your immediate vicinity to grab it. Now, for future stuff, once the smartwatch securely gets that data, it could then, say, encrypt it strongly and send it via traditional wireless to your phone or your doctor's secure server for analysis. But the key is, the most sensitive, direct link between the on-body devices happens securely inside the body first, creating this secure inner sanctum for your data.
A secure inner sanctum. I like that.
Right. Now, while the concept is really elegant, actually making it work practically, safely, efficiently. That involved overcoming some pretty significant engineering hurdles. One of the biggest challenges was carefully picking the best frequencies or wavelengths for these electrical signals. Electrical wavelengths, the kind we're using here for body communication, are fundamentally much, much longer than the radio frequency RF wavelengths used in things like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
Okay, why is the frequency so critical?
It's critical because there's a specific range of frequencies where the human body itself can surprisingly act like an antenna.
The body becomes an antenna. How does that work?
Think about a normal radio antenna. An alternating current makes electrons inside it oscillate, right? And that oscillation creates electromagnetic waves, your radio signal. Well, similarly, if you apply an alternating current at certain frequencies to the human body, it will cause the body to radiate a signal. It'd be weak, sure, but potentially still strong enough to be picked up from a distance with sensitive equipment, just like a weak Bluetooth signal. And if your body is accidentally acting as an antenna, it could also pick up unwanted signals from the environment, causing interference with the critical communication between your devices.
Ah, so for the exact same reason you don't want Bluetooth, you want signals contained, you also need to stop your body becoming an accidental antenna broadcasting your data.
Precisely. You want it private. So the Purdue researchers meticulously figured out that the frequencies where the body acts like an antenna are typically between 10 and 100 megahertz. Above that, you're in traditional wireless territory with all its problems. The ingenious finding was this. To make sure the electrical signals stay strictly within the body and don't radiate out, you have to use frequencies in a very specific, much lower range, 0.1 to 10 megahertz. That narrow band is the sweet spot for contained, secure body communication.
Okay, 0.1 to 10 megahertz. That sounds like a clever fix for the antenna problem. But the source mentioned something about earlier attempts avoiding these low frequencies because of high loss. What does high loss mean here, and why was it such a roadblock before this new breakthrough?
That's a really critical question. It gets to the heart of why this new approach is so smart. High loss basically means that signals at these lower frequencies typically need way more power to make sure they arrive at their destination clearly and reliably. For small, battery-powered IOB devices, especially tiny implants, a high-loss channel is a total deal-breaker.
Yeah.
It would just drain their batteries incredibly fast, making them impractical.
Right. They die constantly.
Exactly. Imagine a tiny signal from a glucose monitor on your stomach trying to reach a smartwatch on your wrist. If the channel is high loss, that signal weakens so much it might become unreadable or just not make it, unless you pump in a huge amount of power. Now, previous efforts were generally high loss because they focused on trying to send direct electrical signals or currents through the body. The Purdue research, though, made this key kind of counterintuitive discovery. They found that the parasitic capacitance between the device and the body is actually the secret to creating a working channel with remarkably low loss, even at these lower, safer frequencies.
Parasitic capacitance. Okay, you mentioned capacitance is like storing charge. What's parasitic about it?
Right, capacitance is just the ability to store electrical charge, like a tiny temporary battery. Parasitic capacitance usually means unwanted, unintended capacitance that just naturally happens between any two objects close together, like your hand and your phone screen. Normally, engineers try to minimize this parasitic effect because it can mess up circuits. But here, instead of fighting it, the Purdue researchers cleverly harnessed it. They realized this subtle, often ignored electrical property was the secret ingredient.
So they turned a bug into a feature, basically.
You could say that. It's like discovering this hidden pathway that relies on these subtle electrical interactions within our bodies. It's a real aha moment in engineering. Now, at this point, someone really thinking electrically might ask, okay, a circuit needs a closed loop, right, for electricity to flow. We've talked about the signal going through the body, but what about the return path? How does this circuit complete? That's fundamental,
Yeah, good question. How does it close the loop without a wire?
right? And the answer is incredibly clever. It relies on this subtle interplay between parasitic capacitance and the Earth's ground. It's not like flipping a light switch with a direct wire. Think of it more like that gentle electrical ripple we talked about. When the signal goes into your body from the transmitter, it creates this subtle, contained ripple through the conductive interstitial fluid. Now, to close the loop, this ripple doesn't need a direct wire back. Instead, it uses the natural, invisible electrical connections your body has with its surroundings. Specifically, the parasitic capacitance between, say, your feet and the floor, connecting you to the actual Earth's ground. And then even capacitance through the air back to the device's floating ground electrode.
Whoa, okay. So it makes a kind of invisible ghost circuit using the environment.
Kind of, yeah. It forms this subtle, enclosed, perfectly harmless loop. So when the transmitting device creates that tiny voltage change on your skin, it causes a minuscule alternating current to flow through this ghost circuit, involving your body, the ground, the air, back to the floating electrode. Because the receiving device is also on your body, it's part of that same shared body segment of the circuit. Its own electrodes, which are designed to be super sensitive, detect this shared change in the body's voltage, and they decode that change back into information. It's all about inducing and sensing voltage changes, not pushing strong currents.
That's fascinating. So the design of the electrodes is key then.
Absolutely crucial. And this leads to another vital design choice. The electrodes on these IOB devices should have high capacitance. This is super important for two main reasons. First, and most importantly, safety. If the electrodes have high capacitance, then even relatively high voltages created by the transmitter result in extremely low currents actually flowing through the body. This is obviously paramount. We absolutely don't want significant currents running through people. The system is designed for minute voltage changes, not current flow. Totally safe.
Okay, safety first. What's the second reason for high capacitance?
Second, it also makes the communication channel incredibly low loss. A high capacitance system, especially these low frequencies, is very sensitive to tiny current changes, which means the signal doesn't weaken much as it travels across the body. So the upshot is, the researchers can keep the current incredibly low and safe, but still get clear, detectable voltage measurements at the receiving device. This whole innovative approach has a massive impact. This technique gives a reduction in loss of 2 orders of magnitude. That's 100 times less signal degradation compared to older attempts that tried pushing current through the body. It's a huge leap forward, solving that high loss problem that plagued earlier work while being safer.
Okay, that is genuinely ingenious engineering. Not just solving a complex problem, but using our own body's properties to do it. So let's bring it back to the listener, back to me. What does this all mean for my privacy, the security of my devices, whether it's my smartwatch, my earbuds, or maybe one day a critical medical implant? How does this body channel translate into real-world tangible benefits?
The benefits are, honestly, revolutionary, starting with just unrivaled privacy and security. This method drastically shrinks the interception distance. Remember Bluetooth? We said typically 5 to 10 meters interception range.
Great.
An attacker could be sitting across the coffee shop
Right.
with his body channel tech. That interception distance is slashed to below 15 centimeters.
15 centimeters.
Yeah.
That's tiny. Like basically touching distance.
Almost, yeah. It's an astonishing reduction. It makes it virtually impossible for an attacker to secretly intercept or interfere with your signals. What that means practically is that an attacker would need to be so incredibly close to you, almost physically touching you, that there's just no way for them to hide. No covert attack possible. Imagine walking through a crowded airport, sitting on a busy train, just being in public. With traditional wireless, your data is sort of floating around for anyone with the gear. With the body channel, your data literally stays within your personal sphere, virtually inaccessible to outsiders unless they're right there. Overtly obvious. It's not just an improvement, it's a whole paradigm shift in personal data security.
Wow, okay, that alone is huge. But beyond that massive leap in security, you mentioned energy efficiency earlier too. How significant is that for these often tiny battery-hungry devices, especially implants where changing a battery is major surgery?
The energy efficiency it's mind-bogglingly significant, a true game changer for device lifespan and just user convenience.
Yeah.
Because the system is low loss and uses those specific low frequencies, it uses far, far less power to send information. The method requires less than 10 picojoules per transferred bit.
Picojoules, that sounds incredibly small.
It is vanishingly small.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, that's roughly 0.01% of the energy Bluetooth needs for the same amount of data transfer.
0.01%.
Yep. Let me give you a concrete example from the research. They transmitted data at 1 kilobit per second using strong 256-bit encryption, and it only drew about 415 nanowatts of power. That is more than 3 orders of magnitude, literally thousands of times less power than Bluetooth typically uses, which is usually somewhere between 1 and 10 milliwatts.
Thousands of times less power.
Thousands. Now imagine what that means for battery life in vital implants like pacemakers or glucose monitors. A pacemaker battery that maybe lasts 5–10 years now, requiring an invasive surgery to replace, could potentially last for decades, drastically cutting down on risky, expensive surgeries over a patient's lifetime. Or just think about your everyday smartwatch or earbuds. They could potentially go for weeks, maybe even months on a single charge. Freedom from constant recharging anxiety. It's not just convenient, it's a fundamental upgrade in reliability, longevity, user experience, making these devices not just safer, but way more practical for our increasingly connected lives.
That's absolutely incredible. And this isn't just theory, right? The researchers actually built this and showed it working. You mentioned a real-world application.
Absolutely. The research provides this really concrete, compelling example that brings it all to life, beyond just medical uses. Imagine unlocking your computer, not with a password, not a fingerprint, but with a signal sent through your own body. So one of the PhD students, David Yang, did this demonstration. He wore a small transmitter on his right wrist. This transmitter sent a secure code, his unique digital key, through his body to unlock a computer. The computer was connected to a receiver that he just held in his left hand. His body effectively became the secure, personal pathway for authentication. Instantly, securely unlocked the computer.
So no more keeping passwords, no one looking over your shoulder. Your body literally becomes the key, unhackable. Precisely. And what's really impressive and shows this is deployable is the miniaturization they achieved. There's an image in the source showing a prototype receiver that fits into a tiny USB insert, something you could just plug into any computer. This isn't science fiction anymore. It's tangible, practical, highly secure. It could revolutionize how we interact with our devices. It proves our bodies really can become the ultimate secure network for our personal interactions. It's happening now. It shows the path forward. #outro.
So, from Vice President Cheney's deeply cautionary tale about his pacemaker security way back when, to Barnaby Jack's frankly startling live demos of hacking insulin pumps and pacemakers from, 90 meters away, the vulnerabilities of wireless devices on and in our bodies have been alarmingly clear for, over a decade now. It's a problem that seems to have stubbornly stuck around even as we rely more and more on these intimate technologies. Yeah, it really has. But as we've explored today, the truly elegant solution, the real breakthrough it seems, lies not just in adding more complex encryption layers on the outside, nor is it resorting to those risky, impractical physical wires inside us. Instead, the breakthrough comes from cleverly and safely leveraging the human body's own natural conductive properties. Medical devices like pacemakers, insulin pumps, they've been around for decades. Newer consumer tech like earbuds, smartwatches, maybe future smart contact lenses, they're all here to stay. They'll only get more integrated into our lives, which makes this area of innovation ensuring their security, their privacy, absolutely critical for everyone. Data is always most vulnerable when it's moving, right? When it's going from A to B. This body channel technology finally offers this revolutionary way to sort of close the loop, to keep your most personal, sensitive data truly contained and secure within the confines of your own body, making it virtually inaccessible to external threats. It's not just an upgrade. It really feels like a new paradigm for personal data security.
So as you go about your day, maybe you're wearing a smartwatch right now or using wireless earbuds, relying on any of these myriad devices that are fast becoming extensions of ourselves. Maybe take a second to consider this. If your own body can be your most secure network, this private, unhackable channel for your most sensitive information, what other possibilities for personal security, for privacy, for seamless, contained connectivity might be literally at your fingertips? or even subtly at work within you that we haven't even begun to fully imagine yet. It really encourages us to reflect on that ever-evolving, increasingly crucial balance between convenience, constant connectivity, and the ultimate fundamental privacy of our most personal information.